I'm joined now by Senator Jack Reed, the top Democrat on the Armed Services Committee. Good to see you this morning, Senator Reed. I'm going to turn to Ukraine in a moment, but I want to get first your reaction to the firing of C.Q. Brown and the others.
Well, it was completely unjustified. These men and women were superb professionals. They were committed to their oath to defend the Constitution of the United States. And apparently what Trump and Hegseth are trying to do is to politicize the Department of Defense. And it's not surprising. They put Kash Patel as the FBI director, who is a partisan, who has no, I think, respect for the traditions of neutrality of the FBI. And now they've turned to DOD, and they want everyone in DOD to be holding to the president, not to the Constitution. They want everyone there to do what they're told, regardless of the law. What was also startling over the weekend was firing all the advocate generals of the military. If you're going to break the law, the first thing you do is you get rid of the lawyers. So we're looking at a very dangerous undermining of the values of our military, and the repercussions are being felt already. People questioning whether they should stay, talented leaders wondering if they should get out. It's the beginning of a very, very serious degradation of the military and politicization of the military.
You say that. Do you have confidence in Lieutenant General Dan Kane, who the president has chosen to replace C.Q. Brown?
I do not know General Kane. He will be subject, as the case, to careful review by the committee. There are obviously a great many questions that we're going to raise with him, but I think we have to give him the opportunity to make his case and also to make clear that he is going to be willing to speak truth to power, willing to give his best military advice to the president, not just tell the president what he wants to hear, and also to be open and share with the Congress the facts on the ground, not be a political spokesperson for the president. So those are part of the issues that we'll address as we go forward.
Okay, I want to turn back to Ukraine. Quite a remarkable week. You heard President Trump's personal attacks on President Zelensky, who's been fighting for his country for 3 years. What is your reaction to what you've heard this week and the kind of rhetoric you've heard?
Well, essentially, this is President Trump surrendering to the Russians. No surprise. In Afghanistan, he sat down with the Taliban, excluded the government of Afghanistan in Doha through his emissaries, and they essentially said, listen, don't bother us for a year and we'll be out. And now he's trying the same thing, which is basically we're going to undercut the Ukrainians. Oh, and by the way, we're going to get their precious minerals at bargain rate prices as a threat to do even worse. This is not a statesman or a diplomat. This is just someone who admires Putin, does not believe in the struggle of the Ukrainians, and is committed to cozying up to an autocrat. And that, I think, is going to be wrong, because Putin will not stop in Ukraine. He will begin in a campaign, both clandestine and, in many cases, overt, to undermine the other governments in Eastern Europe, and it'll create chaos. Again, Trump...
But could this be a negotiating tactic? Could this just be a negotiating tactic to bring Ukraine to the table, to make sure that there is something to move the ball here?
Well, I'd be more confident in that suggestion if there was a vigorous dialogue between the Ukrainians and the United States with respect to these negotiations, that we understood where their lines are, et cetera. That apparently has not happened. I think Trump's discussions with Zelensky amount to public statements, which are generally misleading or completely false. There's no real intention to engage the Ukrainian government to find out what they need, what they have to do to defend themselves and the European order post-World War II. So without that, this is just, Putin and Trump getting together through emissaries to
Senator,
cut it.
When you look back over these past 3 years, though, they are still at war. So isolating Vladimir Putin doesn't appear to have worked either. So what is the solution here?
Well, the first solution is to communicate to the Russians that we will be very, very serious about their actions in Ukraine. It would mean to tighten the sanctions. What Trump has done is apparently he's taken apart the division in the FBI that is responsible for sanctions enforcement and against the Russian oligarchs. So that's another indication of wink, wink, you'll be okay, Vladimir. What we have to do is keep the pressure on and then go into negotiations that will include the Ukrainians, not exclude them. And then with this pressure, hopefully Putin will decide that the cost is too great to continue this effort. It's a tough road to hoe, but it's a better one than conceding and watching the destruction of Ukraine. And my sense is that the recriminations by the Russians against Ukrainians after this settlement, if it happens, will be dire indeed, that they will deliberately hunt down and destroy anyone they think was a opponent of them.
Okay.
And we will bear that on our conscience.
Okay, thank you for joining us this morning, Senator Reid. I always appreciate your time.